The Shameless Picture Show is part of the Cinepunks Network. If you like The Shameless Picture Show and you want to hear other great shows like it, make sure you check out the Cinepunks Network. You can find them at www.cinepunks.com. That's CINEPUNX. There's other great shows such as Cinepunks. There's The Carnage Report, Cinema Smorgasbord, Fat Girl Hacks, Loud, Fast, Philly, Tomb of Ideas, and Twitch of the Death Nerve, and so much more. If you like punk rock and you like movies, make sure to go to www.cinepunks.com. And let's not forget the sponsors for the Cinepunks Network. We have the Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. They are the premier screen printer of the Lehigh Valley with service to the whole country, professional and personable in a way that only a DIY business can be. They also have ridiculously low prices for whatever your screen printing needs may be. You can visit them online at xlvacx.com. That's xlvacx.com. Lehigh Valley Apparel Creations. We also have the Essex Coffee Roasters. All their coffee is roasted to order. They have high quality beans, bunch of apparel, and tea available. They are bringing high quality coffee to the masses without the pretentiousness. Use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order. You can visit them at www.essexcoffeeroasters.com. That's ESSEX, coffeeroasters.com. Once again, use the code CINEPUNKS for 10% off your first order.
Warning! This movie podcast actually discusses movies. Be aware that it may discuss any of the following elements: endings, surprise twists, unexpected cameos, and all manner of spoilers. If this doesn't appeal to you, then why listen to a movie podcast? Without further ado, please enjoy our feature presentation, The Shameless Picture Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Shameless Picture Show. I am your host, Michael Viers, and today I'm being joined by one of my very best friends. We got Mack Bates back on the show. Mack, for those of you who may not have listened to some of his previous episodes, he is a jack of all trades. When I met him, he was a writer for various publications within Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and where he wrote about film and film culture. But since then, he has transitioned into the mighty world of stage performance and has been quite a well-known actor throughout Wisconsin. Mack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thank you so much for having me on today's show.
You're very welcome. This is a movie that you pitched to me a while back about wanting to do. And I know you tried to write a piece about this at one point when it had its anniversary recently. I remember, or I thought something like that. You wanted to write about it for Roger Ebert's website, and you gave him a really nice pitch. And,
Yes.
you know, as is the game, you pitch some pieces, and sometimes they just don't go anywhere, and that's fine. So before we move on to the film that we're going to be talking about, Mack, what have you been up to?
Well, I did some shows earlier this year. I did a production of Aquila and the Bee, the stage version of the 2006 feature film that was written and directed by Doug Atchison. There's a stage version of it, and I did that at Waukesha Civic Theater in downtown Waukesha, Wisconsin, which is located near Milwaukee. It's basically a greater Milwaukee suburb. And I was a character by the name of Drunk Willie in that show. He is he's the superintendent and owner of the building that Aquila and her mother and brother live in. And that was a great deal of fun. Anybody who's seen that movie knows that it's a very heartwarming, aspirational story, and it was an honor to be a part of it with so many people that I've worked with previously, as well as people I worked with for the first time on that show. So it was just a really great overall experience. We had a 3 week run of that back in February, and over the summer I did a couple of live stage readings at Lake Country Playhouse, which is in Heartland, Wisconsin, which is also a suburb in the greater Milwaukee area. I did Driving Miss
That's
Daisy.
yeah, that's where I thought.
Uh,
Yeah, I've seen you. I
yes,
saw that show.
yes, I've done Driving Miss Daisy twice prior in full fledged productions at in Slinger at a theater called Kettle Moraine Playhouse. That's also a greater Milwaukee suburb. And I did it at a little theater called the Black Box Studio Theater in Mukwonago, Wisconsin, also a suburb of greater Milwaukee, where we did, like I said, full fledged productions, and I did a stage reading of it for the first time in Heartland this past July, and it was great. It was a really great experience. I love playing that material. Albert Urie's script is, there's gold in every single page, and I've always just had a really great time playing Hope Colburn, the role that Morgan Freeman famously immortalized first on the off Broadway stage in '87, and then in the Oscar winning film in 1989. And the next month at the same theater, Lake Country Playhouse, I also did a live staged reading of this show called, oh, and of course, it's just skip my mind. Tiny Beautiful Things, which was based, Tiny Beautiful Things, which was based on the novel by Cheryl Strayed, which was adapted for the stage by Nia Vardalos, who a lot of people would remember as having been the writer and star of My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I've
So
always.
that's what I've done this year.
And do you have anything exciting coming up that you are able to talk about, or any writing pieces, or anything else?
Oh yeah, I've got a couple of shows that I'm auditioning for. Nothing I can really talk about at the moment, but I
That's
got a call
fair.
back for one. I just went to that audition last night. I got a call back today, so I'll be doing that over the weekend. And fingers crossed that materializes. I'll be auditioning for another show at Waukesha Civic Theater. With that's actually happening in February, but the auditions are coming up in December, so I'll be going out for that. A stage version of Jane Austen's Sense and Sensibility, which I've already
Mm.
done. I've done that previously 3 years ago, but I would love to get a chance to be a part of that again. So that audition is coming up. And in terms of writing, I haven't gotten anything greenlit yet, but I'm pitching and just seeing what'll stick and what'll get the green light.
Mm. That's that's always the hard part, and like you kind of have to have a thick skin when you are pitching, because there could be an idea that you think is phenomenal, and it can get turned down many times.
That's true.
And it's not always
That
to
is
say
very
that the
true.
idea is bad. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just not a very like well cooked idea. It happens. But sometimes it's just not right for the moment, or just not right for that place. Um, so like yeah, I'm always a big proponent of continue pitching. If you are motivated enough, you could write the piece and then pitch it, and
Yeah,
because at least then it's finished.
that is
Um,
true.
but that's part of the game. Um, but hopefully we'll get your name in print again. Hopefully we can get something going together again, because that was
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, we worked together rather greatly last year on a piece that we did for RogerEbert.com
Hmm.
called the Needle Drop Sessions, which we wrote about our love of music and film and focused on two films that were pretty instrumental in our music education
Yeah,
as young men. So
yeah,
that was great
absolutely.
fun, and I'm really happy with that piece. And glad that I got a chance to do it with you. And that took a while to pitch and get the green light for. But when we
And
got that green light, we hit the ground running.
and it was originally turned down,
That's true.
and then
Yeah,
but like
we pitched it.
a year later, almost from when we originally pitched
Yeah.
it, we got the email asking if we wanted to do it. So you never know. But
So just goes to show perseverance is everything. Never give up.
exactly. So before we move on to the film that we're going to be discussing today, I had a question for you about acting, because
Oh,
I feel like
mhm.
I might have asked you a variation on this question last time you were on, but since then you've had even more experience. The more experience that you have with acting, does it change the way that you watch things? Does it change the way you watch performances?
It has, and to a degree, just like being a film critic for all those years made me look at film in a different way than I did when I was just a casual observer of film. Yeah, when you're writing about film and you're analyzing film, you can't help but notice certain trends and certain aspects that your usual average, everyday moviegoer or film fan might not necessarily pick up on. And plus, I studied film at UWM like you did, so
Mhm.
you're coming at it from that angle too, as somebody who studied film. So yeah, it definitely did, and it definitely has.
Mm, mm. So yeah, it's gonna be real fun for you to kind of talk about some of the things you've noticed in the performances in the movie we're going to be discussing. So I think I'll stop burying the lead. Tonight we'll be discussing Stephen Frears' The Grifters, released in 1990, based on Jim Thompson's 1963 novel. The film dives into the world of small-time con artists living on the edge of desperation and survival. At the center of the story is Roy Dillon, played by John Cusack, a minor grifter whose life unravels when his estranged mother Lily, Angelica Houston in one of her most acclaimed performances, returns to Los Angeles on assignment for a mob bookkeeper. Roy's already unstable world becomes even more volatile when his girlfriend Myra, a seductive and ambitious con artist played by Annette Bening, enters the picture. As the three of them circle one another, playing emotional and psychological confidence games, their competing schemes tighten into a tragic, inescapable web of mistrust and betrayal. Frears, directing his first Hollywood feature, approaches The Grifters as a modern neo-noir, but one drenched in the bright California sun rather than the shadowy alleys. The film evokes what critics have called toxic Americana, blending classic pulp fatalism with a timeless, unsettling mood. Working from Donald E. Westlake's screenplay, Frears honors Thompson's unforgiving tone, lean, unsentimental, and morally razor-sharp, while Oliver Stapleton's cinematography and Elmer Bernstein's score heighten the film's tension and emotional brutality. Critics widely praise the film, but Pauline Kael was especially struck by its blend of style and savagery. She admired how the adaptation preserves Thompson's relentless, hard-boiled worldview, noting how the story shifts from the playful surface of comic capers to something far darker and more emotionally violent. Kael singled out Houston's performance, calling Lily a character willing to be seen as monstrous if that's what survival requires, an intensity that deepens the film's Oedipal undertones and its sense of looming tragedy. The Grifters was a major critical success and earned 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Director for Frears, Best Actress for Houston, and Best Supporting Actress for Bening. It helped revive interest in Thompson's work and established the film as one of the defining neo-noirs of its era. With its sunlit menace, tightly coiled performances, and devastating final act, The Grifters remains one of the most gripping and emotionally unforgiving crime dramas of the 1990s. From 1990, directed by Stephen Frears and written by Donald E. Westlake from a novel by Jim Thompson, this is The Grifters.
It begins with seduction.
The lady or the loot?
It leads to betrayal.
You're working some angle, and don't tell me you're not, because I wrote the book.
What do you sell anyway?
Self-confidence. You're not skimming this thing, Millie?
Oh, well, clip the butt here and the butt there.
Get better at this, man.
I can walk away from it anytime I want.
Have I heard that before?
And it ends with murder.
You haven't got the stomach for it.
Academy Award nominee for Best Actress, Angelica Houston.
Get off the grift, boy.
John Cusack.
I want to learn everything.
You want to be a grifter?
And Academy Award nominee for Best Supporting Actress, Annette Bening.
I was team 10 years with the best in the business. I'm still the best long con roper you'll ever see.
In the highly acclaimed new thriller from the director of Dangerous Liaisons and producer Martin Scorsese of Goodfellas. Who's conning who? the Martin Scorsese production of a Stephen Frears thriller, The Grifters.
All right. So, The Grifters from 1990. Mac, how old were you when you saw this movie?
I was 14, but I was made aware of it when I was still 13.
So, walk me through that. Like, was this something you saw in the theaters? Was this something you had seen on videotape? You kind of alluded to there's a story behind this film.
Yes, there is. I was a movie obsessed 13-year-old young man at that time. I was constantly renting films, going to my local cinema. We had a budget a cinema near my house that I would be at most weekends.
I missed the budget
I would.
cinemas.
Oh yeah, me too. I missed them too. They were. I saw so many different films there, from not just blockbuster films, but I saw smaller independent films. I saw there were a couple of foreign films that I saw at the budget. It was just a grab bag of everything you could possibly think of. Like if it opened up in theaters, chances are it was going to go to one of the budgets in the area. And so the budget I went to was on the far northwest side, near 76 and Good Hope. It is now a child care center, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that's what's currently there now and has been there since it closed over 20 years ago, which is, it's been a while. It's a place that I spent a lot of my formative years at, for sure. But I originally became interested in the movie when I saw a trailer of it. I went to go see a film and I saw a trailer for it, and I thought, what is that? Because after I saw it, I was just transfixed. I'm like, oh, I've got to see this film. And that was how I would become aware of a lot of movies at that time. It was the early 90s, and oftentimes when you would see trailers, that would be like your first intro to a film, and it was typically either on a VHS tape if you were renting films at that time, which was a huge a market, Blockbuster and in the like, or you would see them on the big screen when you would go to the movies to see whatever film you're seeing, that particular day. And so I saw the trailer, and that's what really instantly grabbed my attention. And then maybe a week or so later, Siskel and Ebert, Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, they reviewed it on their show, and they gave it a rave. And I'm thinking, oh, well, that's it. I'm definitely seeing this film.
The Grifters is really two movies, an entertaining manual on how to cheat people, and much more interesting, a twisted love story between a mother and a son who trust no one and yet recognize the emotion of love for each other that is creeping at the edge of their hearts. And what I really like about this picture is that it doesn't try to sum up everything in a neat package. Rather, it simply presents some very specific lives at the fringe of society, people who are disturbed and unforgettable. The Grifters was directed by Stephen Frears, who's made two strong films about obsessed characters, Dangerous Liaisons and Prick Up Your Ears, and he is really building now an impressive body of work.
This is a terrific movie, and one of the things I liked about it as I was watching it is that, like House of Games, a movie we liked so much a couple of years ago, although it's totally different in style and in emotional content, it makes you think all the time because the characters are never necessarily doing what they want each other to think they're doing. So the audience has to get in the act and figure out who's on the level here, what's the angle, why is this being said, why is this being done. And there were a couple of times in the movie when I was really fooled. But even apart from that, you're right, it's two movies, and the other movie is even better, and that's this emotional triangle with these three great performances.
You know what? When you realize that everybody in this picture is scamming the other person, that really is a level of tension that we're not used to in pictures. We're used to having some outside force move the characters around and work toward a conclusion. This is a whole different game.
It's much smarter, it's much more clever, and the performances, Cusack, Houston, Benning, these are 3 Academy Award level performances. They're really terrific.
Very strong.
And it just became kind of a mini obsession of mine. And there was a movie theater also near my house, besides the budget, was Northtown Cinemas, which was also located literally just a block, maybe a couple of blocks away on 76 from the old Northside budget. And they had a poster for it hanging up. It wasn't playing there, but they had a poster for it hanging up in the lobby. And every time I would go see a film there, I would just kind of stare at the poster and just imagine what the film was about. And the poster, if you ever seen the theatrical one sheet of it, it's so cool.
Is that the one where it's got all 3 of them wearing sunglasses and it's
yes,
that is such
it's such a cool
poster.
It's such a slick poster. But that was probably the coolest poster I had seen up until that point. And I had seen some cool posters,
Yeah.
but that one was probably the absolute coolest up until that point. And I just thought, I've got to see this film. I don't care, come hell or high water, I'm seeing this movie. And then it started getting nominated for things like the Golden Globe. I know Angelica Houston was nominated for that. And then Oscar nominations came out, and they got like 4 nominations, if I'm not mistaken,
Oh
for
yeah,
Houston
I've
for
got
Best
them.
Actress.
Yeah, I've got them pulled up. It's best director, best
Hmm.
actress for Angelica Houston, best supporting actress for Annette Bening, best screenplay based on Another Medium for Donald Westlake. That's just an insane run, and it didn't win any of them.
Yeah.
But
No, no.
fuck,
Yeah, and I was surprised by that just based on how much I was obsessed with it. I thought it was going to win something.
yeah.
And this is sight unseen, by the way. I didn't get a chance to see the movie until a few months after the Oscars, and going home empty-handed. So
So what about like obviously anyone out there who's listening to this episode, go check out that poster. It's really cool.
yeah,
I will say, if
yeah,
anything, this Criterion poster is not nearly as cool. I get what they're going for it with it, but it
yeah.
loses that pop. And what I think is so interesting about that poster, which by the way, it's got a fantastic tagline. It's seduction, betrayal,
Hmm.
murder. Who's conning who? And it's got, the grifters right across the screen. I will say the poster makes the film look more like a crime romp than it actually is. It's a very good indication of what the movie begins as, but not
Yes.
necessarily where it's going. Um,
Oh yeah.
but what about this poster drew you in? Like, were you a fan of crime films? Were you a fan of con artist movies? I love crime films. I love movies about con artists. What
Mhm.
like I know, like, obviously the trailer, but
Mhm.
what were the elements that were drawing young Mac into the Grifters, or was it just right place, right time, right age?
I think that's it. I think you just hit the nail squarely on the head. I think I was at that age where something like this coming out was going to grab my attention because it just seemed sexy and dangerous and forbidden and a little taboo. And so of course at 13, 14 years old, you gravitate a little bit towards that. Some people gravitate towards it a little more than just a little, but in that instance, the title caught my attention. The Grifters. I'm like, what is that? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then the imagery of the poster, I just thought they all looked so damn cool, posed with the sunglasses. And I've always been a big fan of sunglasses, still am.
Yep,
And
same.
yeah, that drew my attention. I was a fan of John Cusack from earlier films he had been in, like Better Off Dead and Say Anything. So that was a part of the appeal. I knew Annette Bening. I recognized her, but I didn't realize that was the same woman who played Dan Aykroyd's wife in The Great Outdoors, which she had
Yes.
made just a couple of years earlier. I had no idea that was the same person. I'm like, that woman looks awfully familiar. Where have I seen her at before? And with Angelica Houston, I was familiar with her from Ice Castles,
Yeah.
Ice Pirates rather, Ice Pirates. That's how I was familiar with her at that time. And I was like, oh, that's old girl from Ice Pirates.
Well,
So
and then
yeah, so
Annette
I knew all of them from something previous.
and Annette Bening is like transformative in this movie. Like they all
Oh
are,
yeah.
but like like the what
Hmm.
Annette Bening's doing with her voice, and it reminds me, and just the way that she embodies the character, because Annette Bening
Hmm.
can be very much a chameleon in the roles that she's playing.
Hmm.
But she
Yes.
reminds me a lot of like what Nancy Allen's doing in Blowout, Brian De Palma's Blowout.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily like riffing on it or anything, but just like a
Hmm.
true like I thought that's how Nancy Allen talked until I heard her speak. Like that's just
Yeah.
um and like you said, this movie is just really cool. And that
Hmm.
element, that it factor, kind of goes unnoticed, because when you're just viewing what film was like in the 1990s, people are, you kind of start picking and choosing films from different parts of the 90s. Like you have to realize this
Hmm.
is coming off the 80s. Some of the real big quote unquote cool films of the 90s hadn't come out yet. Reservoir Dogs hasn't been made yet. Pulp Fiction hasn't
Yeah.
been made yet. Some
Yeah,
of
that
those
tears
films
off.
that
Yeah.
defined the style of the 90s hadn't come out yet. So something that felt this cool, like a crime film that was this cool was not a common occurrence at this
No.
point.
Yeah, and then think about it. If you've seen the movie, and if you haven't, I would highly recommend you do. It's got a very 1940s hard-boiled drama edge to it, combined with a 70s sensibility in terms of it being kind of almost cinema verite in certain regards, with a distinctly 80s attitude. It's kind of like a little mashup of different eras, and it works. Somehow it works, and it's a marvel to look at. And even though I was 14 when I finally got a chance to see it on VHS, and you better believe I rented that puppy the weekend it was available. It came out that Tuesday. I got it that Friday, and I watched it Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That first week it was available for viewing on home video, and it lived up to my expectations and exceeded them. I was just like, and most of it as a 14-year-old went over my head. I will freely admit that, but I knew I had witnessed greatness. I didn't know just how great it was until much later. But even at 14, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the shit. Like this is the movie that people are going to be talking about for years to come. And here we are, 35 years later, still talking about it. So,
Yeah, and so while this movie did come out in 1990, it is worth mentioning it came out December 2nd of 1990. So it's not necessarily a 1990 film. So it was
no.
more so competing with the films that came out in 1991. And
Mhm.
1991 was a crazy year for film. So the Grifters, in the grand scheme of film in 1991, was number 99 of the best-selling movies of the year. It did okay. It made about
Mhm.
$13 million. But if you just look at the films that were number 1 for that year, it's insane. So, Terminator 2: Judgment Day was the number 1 film of the year. Robin Hood: Prince of Thieves was number 2.
Yep.
Home Alone was number 3, and it came out the year prior.
That is true. Came out in November 1990. We just celebrated the 35th anniversary this month.
Yep. You have
Yeah.
Yep. Then you have Silence of the Lambs,
Hmm.
City Slickers, Dances with Wolves, Sleeping with the Enemy, another Angelica
Oh.
Houston film, The Addams Family,
Oh yeah.
Naked Gun 2.5, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. So like it is a really astronomically big year, and
Um,
I think it's also
and
coming
I
at a.
saw.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
Oh no, I was about to say all of those top 10 films. I saw all of them.
Yeah.
So most of them at the movies. I've seen. Most of those I saw on the big screen.
You were contributing to those numbers, but I
Yes,
think
I was.
I think what the Grifters really starts transitioning into is it is bringing out a different type of film that I think would go on to define the 90s in some way, the kind of cool crime film. You know,
Mm,
obviously Tarantino kind of put that on the map with Reservoir Dogs, which is another cool let's wear sunglasses movie. Um,
yes.
and then there was a lot of people ripping him off and doing
Oh yeah.
Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction clones. Um, but ultimately, especially Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino's pulling from pulpy influences. He's pulling
Hmm.
from things like Jim Thompson's novels. I don't know if Quentin Tarantino has ever said if there's an inspiration there, but there's no way in the world he hasn't read one of Jim Thompson's books. And what I think works so well about something like The Grifters is I love that it's time period ambiguous.
Oh yes.
It is set in a time period where they're not committing to a time period. One could argue
Mm-mm.
that it's quote unquote contemporary for its time,
Hmm.
but it's if you look at the characters, the way that they dress and the way that they're stylized, Angelica Houston is walking straight out of an old noir, and then the way
Hmm.
she dresses. John Cusack is dressed in 80s suits that you could buy, like relatively cheap suits from the 80s. Annette Bening is also dressed in a more femme fatale look, but her hair is very anachronistic, so it doesn't really match the time period that she's dressing like. But then all the cars in the movie are from the 70s. And they even said in the Stephen Frears said that they intentionally removed all foreign cars from the film. And it was
so
just
all
like
American cars.
all American cars from the 1970s. Interesting choice for an English director.
That's true.
And it's these nice little details that I think give the film a timeless look. I feel like most people would watch this and feel it, and probably feel like the film skews older because of those choices. And you know, people aren't going to know, you know, unless you're a nerd, people aren't going to know those are necessarily 70s cars. They just know they're old cars. Or they're not going to know John Cusack's suits are from the 80s. They're just going to know
80s.
that he's, you know, not dressing slick. But I think it's a really nice, it's really interesting because The Grifters takes place in the 60s, but Frears wasn't interested in doing a period piece. But he also didn't want to commit to it necessarily being contemporary. And I think that's a beautiful choice. That's a beautiful piece of direction.
Yeah, and I think that makes the film timeless in many ways because you can't really pigeonhole it as any one particular era or one particular, you know, a mindset. So I think that's one of the brilliant pieces about what he did and what you know the filmmakers together all pulled off.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we should delve into the story of this movie a little bit. We have, as I said in my introduction, one thing I do want to mention, I also love that this film was produced by not only Martin Scorsese, who does the opening narration in this film, which they added because they were worried that people wouldn't understand what Anjelica Huston was doing without Scorsese's help there. Apparently, from what I had read, Scorsese had optioned this book, and he wanted to. He didn't think he'd have time because I think he was in the middle of. I think he was coming off of Last Temptation around then, and I think he's probably gearing up for Goodfellas somewhere in there.
Goodfellas, yep.
But he,
he probably was in post on Goodfellas by the time this started filming. It probably was like late '89, early '90s. So yeah, he was already in post on Goodfellas.
Yeah, and to the point,
you know him and his Thelma Schumacher, they take certainly at that time, and I think still to this day take upwards of a year in post. So they take their time.
Yeah, and actually Stephen Frears said that he had Marty and Thelma over to watch a cut of the film, and they were saying that they were talking about how they actually appreciate the pacing of this film because they said it's so wildly different than what they were doing on Goodfellas at the time that it felt classical in comparison. But I also love that the film was produced by Robert A. Harris. If that's a name that doesn't sound familiar to a lot of you, there's a good reason for it. Robert A. Harris is not known as a film producer. He did option the rights to this book, and it was something that he wanted to make. But Robert A. Harris is actually a film historian and archivist, and he has done really prolific restorations on films such as Lawrence of Arabia, Vertigo. He is actually on the Vertigo and Rear Window Blu-rays talking about the restoration, and he did what is arguably considered the most accurate restoration of The Godfather, the 2008 Blu-rays. So he's a film archivist and a film historian, but he helped produce this film because he believed in it so much. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, that is great. And you know, I noticed the name, but I didn't, make the comparison. I didn't make the link. Now that you've made the link, and now it all makes sense. I'm like, oh, okay. That's how I know, heard of the name before.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see. I haven't checked the technical specs yet of the Criterion disc, but I'd be curious to see if he helped at all with the restoration on this film.
Oh yeah, the transfer, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was filmed on film. Which
it was filmed on film. They used a really interesting bleach bypass process to give the film its iconic look. It's a really stellar looking film. But going back to the story that I touched on in my introduction, the film follows three people. It follows Annette Bening, who's playing Myra, John Cusack, who's playing Roy, and Anjelica Huston, who's playing Lily. John Cusack is a small-time con man, and they hint towards that he learned all of his con artist ways from some old con artist in the South who taught him these little tricks how to con people and to get some money. But he's never really transitioned to doing anything big. You know, it's a lot of small things, little cheap ways to get a little extra money, which he's good at, but he's sloppy because he gets caught at least once in this movie. But I feel like it's hinted at that he might be slipping a little bit and getting himself caught more often because he's flying a little too close to the sun. Whereas then you have Annette Bening's character, who's really interesting because she's all about the long con. She's a person who wants to really set up these big, elaborate cons that are much bigger. They cost more to do, but the hope is to get a much bigger pay on the end. Like, we even get to see one of these cons play out, and they have a building that they've rented out. They have fake employees. I love that shot when she's walking through the office with her mark, and they show a computer, and the guy's just typing random shit because they're not real workers. So then you have her, and that's, you know, I think she says they pull 1 or 2 cons a year and live off of that.
Yeah, that's how good they are. That's how big the payoffs tend to be.
Whereas John Cusack is always on the grift. He's always trying to find a way to skim a couple bucks here and a couple bucks there. And, you know, he has a sizable little, and we don't know how much it is, but it's a sizable little fortune, enough that someone could start their life over again. And then you got squarely in the middle Anjelica Huston's character. She's not quite a long con artist, but she's transcended past these short cons, and she's now doing grifts for a mob boss, essentially, named Bobo.
A bookie.
Yeah, a bookie named Bobo, and they have a really interesting relationship too because he's Pat Hingle is just an iconic character actor. But when he did this film, he was apparently struggling playing this type of character because he got his start playing pieces of shit like Bobo. But by the time that he did this movie, he was doing, like, he was in The Land Before Time, and he was in Batman, and he was doing comedies.
The year before.
Yep. So he hadn't really had to play a piece of shit like this in a while, and he said he was struggling kind of getting himself back in that vibe, which I think is part of the reason why.
No, looking at the movie.
No, but I think it's also part of the reason why at times he comes across kind of as a nice old man until he's not.
He's nice until he can't be anymore. Exactly.
Yeah, and then essentially what Anjelica Huston's caught doing is she's rigging the races. Not rigging the races, but she's stacking the odds essentially by placing other bets so that way the payouts aren't as good. So you have these 3 people at very different parts of their careers who are all desperate and looking for money. And they all have really interesting, strained relationships because Myra and Roy, they're kind of dating, not quite. You know, I kind of get the feeling that they're hooking up with each other, but they're not really anything too serious.
Yeah, she wants it to be more him. He's just having fun.
Yeah. And then Anjelica Huston is Roy's mother, but they
young
mother. I think she said she was a teenager when she had him.
13.
Yeah, and they have a strained relationship.
Yes, a very odd, inappropriate relationship to say the least.
Yes. So I've been talking a lot, but let's talk about some of these. Let's talk about some of these character dynamics, some of these performances. Mac, kind of walk me through what you enjoy about these characters, because this is a really cool movie, but it's not an overly stylistic movie. It is a movie that is essentially a lot of people staying around talking to each other. This would actually be an amazing stage play.
Hmm. And I'm actually kind of amazed that now that you mention it, it would be a really great stage play. And I'm kind of amazed it hasn't been turned into one yet. Certainly a property that would benefit possibly
I don't know. I
from
think
a theatrical setting.
maybe we pitch a stage production of the Grifters.
Hey, I'm down. I'm totally down for it. Yeah, it would be. Yeah, that would be an interesting. That would definitely be an interesting piece. It is very much a chamber piece in that way, where it's a lot of talking heads, but it's what these people say and what these people do that make it so interesting. First and foremost, Angelica Houston's work as Lily Dillon. That is a performance for the ages, and if you've followed her career like I have, and like a lot of people have, you know that she's been noted for doing very detailed work, very
Hmm.
in expansive performances. Like anybody who's seen her work as Morticia Adams, and in either the Adams Family films, the first that first movie, the Adams Family or Adams Family Values, knows that she has just got this amazing screen presence, but she has also got the talent to back it up. And I think that this is probably the film where she shines the most out of everything I've seen her in. And she shined in a lot of movies, like I said, as Morticia. You're never going to get anybody who even matches what she did with that. She was fantastic in Prizzi's Honor, where she won her Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress back in '85, playing another a person with ties to the mob world. In that instance, she was the daughter of a mobster. And in this film, she just brings so much gravitas and so much just presence to this con woman. She really is the movie, in my opinion. As great is John Cusack is as her son, as fantastic and revelatory as Annette Bening is as her rival. This to me is really Lily's story, and Angelica
Oh,
just inhabits
absolutely.
every single aspect of it to a T. It's really the way Frears, Stephen Frears, the director, chose to tell it. He wanted to show it from the mother's perspective. The
Yeah.
book is really told from the son's perspective, from Roy's perspective, and when you see it from those different perspectives, it becomes two totally different stories.
Well,
If
and
you see it from Roy's perspective, it's one thing, and if you see it from Lily's, it's another.
yeah, and I think that from what I have read, that was one of the reasons why the screenwriter Donald Westlake didn't originally want to do it. He wasn't all that thrilled with Roy's story. He just thought, whatever. I'm not that interested in it. But then when Stephen Frears came to him and said, this is actually the women's story, right? And he goes, oh, well, shit, then I'm in. And that is kind of what helped him figure out what he wanted to do with this
Hmm.
story, because it's interesting too, because the more I think about it, the more that just John Cusack, was on a tear for a while with just really interesting
Yes.
performances. Um, but it's he is just kind of this connective tissue that ties Angelica Houston and Annette Bening to each other, and they instantly don't like each other when they meet each
Yeah.
other, and they don't like each other.
It's oil and water from day one.
But I feel like it's one of those situations where where Lily sees too much of herself in Myra, and
Hmm.
Myra
Yep.
views Lily as competition,
Yes. That is
and
exactly it.
they struggle with that. And Roy is never going to choose between them. He acts coy and pretends like he doesn't care about Lily, but there's a connection. Like, even if they have a strained relationship, which they obviously do, um,
Hmm.
she's still his mother, and he can't let that go. But then there's more going on between them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very complicated relationship to say the least. They essentially in all essence they grew up together.
Yeah.
She was 13 when she had him. She probably was as green as the day is long. and they literally came up together. And matter of fact, at one point in the film, it's actually revealed that he was often pawned off as her younger brother instead of her son, and that even that was part of the con. To get people
Yeah.
to be of assistance to them when she was probably a little too young to really uh, get out there and make some real money. So she used her son to to get by when need be, and so he really learned all the tricks of the trade at her knee, whether
Hmm.
she wants to admit that or not. And the funny thing is, she's been a con artist for the better part of her life, of her entire adult life, probably dating back to when she was still a teenager. But she doesn't want her son in
Hmm.
that racket. She, even though, like I said, the relationship is very not even what, it's just very complicated to say the least. But even with her seemingly lack of maternal instinct, when it comes to Roy, that still kicks in certain instances. And when she finds out that he's basically a con artist like she is, she's trying to counsel him to get out while he still can, and to go legit, even though she has no intentions of doing that for herself. And he, on the flip side, is trying to convince her to go legit, and she was like, no.
Yeah.
She's very used to her way of life, and
Well,
that's the thing that she knows she's good at.
it's also one of those things too where I said this earlier, but everyone's just flying too close to the sun, but they don't
Yes,
realize it. So Roy is
but they
getting,
see it in others.
yes, but they're not able to see it in themselves. And in the end, Lily's trying to get out. Well, she doesn't want to get out, but she's kind of at this point where
She
she
has
has
to.
to.
Yeah.
And I feel like, so we're jumping around quite a bit. And at this point, if you're listening to this episode, I imagine you should have watched the movie. Um, in the end, I truly believe if Roy actually believed that Lily would have taken that money and settled down, gotten a real job, and laid low, he probably would have given her that money. But he knew she would never do that.
Mm.
And
So she was gonna just take her. She was gonna take her game on the road,
yeah,
just a different road, but she was
yeah,
definitely gonna go stay in the game.
but there's she's desperate, and that's the thing I love so much about Houston's performance in this movie. Sorry, I'm getting excited. That's what I love so much about Houston's performance in this movie is there is such a subtlety to a lot of what she's doing, but like I said, there's this amazing desperation. So it obviously comes out the most in that end sequence, which if you haven't seen the movie, don't get mad at us for spoiling it, but she is, in the end when she kills Roy, which
Yes.
is the way that she performs that scene. And Angelica Houston said that she was reminded of when her father died, because I believe she said she found her father on the floor of his house when he died.
Oh
So
wow.
she was channeling that and was inconsolable after that scene.
Mm-hmm.
But there, and then when she's mourning Roy's death, knowing that it was at her hand, but is so like money is a disease in this film. It is a fucking drug.
Yeah.
So even
That's
though
true.
she just killed her son, she is still grabbing as much money as she possibly can. And then the two sequences that I think are
Blood-soaked money. Blood-soaked
blood-soaked
money.
money. Uh,
Literally blood-soaked money. Yeah.
Yes, the two sequences that I love the most for her performance is, like, don't get me wrong, she's great in this entire film. She's got some great snappy dialogue, the cattiness between her and Annette Bening. But the two sequences that I love the most are
Mhm.
after she grabs all the blood-soaked money and she's taking the elevator ride to hell, essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
If you look at her face, the way that she's being very stoic, but you could tell she's struggling to keep that face.
Mm-hmm.
She is
Yeah.
not she doesn't know how much longer she can keep that straight face, but she has to be strong because
Mhm.
that's the only thing that's helped her her entire life is she's the only thing that she can trust. or
Mm-hmm.
she's the only thing that she thinks she could trust. If she probably would have opened up more, and maybe her and Roy would have a different relationship. But then the other piece of performance that I absolutely love, and it kind of goes back to her having to be strong, is when she's at that diner eating by herself, and that dude comes up and is trying to hit on her, and I love it
Yes.
because, you know, he keeps trying to give, you know, all this smooth talking, and she's not into it. She tells him a couple times to leave her the fuck alone. He sits down, she elbows him in the throat, and he falls off of the stool. And I feel like other actors would have just played it calm, cool, and collective, like, oh yeah, I just did that. If you watch her perform, and her hand is shaking as she's drinking her glass because she realizes she just had an outburst, and she's trying to keep it in, and she's just the little bit of shaking that she's doing is such a beautiful, subtle moment.
Yeah, that's the work. That is all the work, and she just really dives deep into this character. And I'm glad that you mentioned both of those scenes, because I know in the last part of the film, the third act, during the sequence, which plays out pretty much entirely in Roy's apartment back in Los Angeles, or as Lily likes to call it, Los Angeles, which I love. As like a little great actress choice on Houston's part. Um, After she accidentally kills her son, and it is an accident, um, she's actually hovering over his corpse on the floor, surrounded by money and blood pouring out of his body, and she's almost it's almost like she's having a dry heave and wailing at the same time. And I remember she was on an episode of Inside the Actor Studio with James Lipton, which used
I
to
used
air
to
on
love that
Bravo.
show.
I love that show too, and I'm so thrilled that I watched her episode when it originally aired, however many years ago, and I'm so thrilled that I remember so much of it. And she actually went into a very deep dive. They both did about this particular film and this particular performance. And in that scene, she said that when she's over the body on the floor on her knees, taking it all in and just incredulous to what has just happened, and she can't believe, that what has just transpired has transpired. She actually had a physical memory of holding her son, holding Roy as a baby, and she said that also um, um, fueled and informed what she did in that scene.
Mm.
So she actually had this physical memory of Lily holding Roy as a little baby, and that just undid her. The actress personally, she was just like as you mentioned earlier, she was inconsolable as a result of working on that scene. And when you see her leaving the apartment sometime later, after doing kind of a halfway job of cleaning up afterwards, you see her in the elevator, and like you said, it's you would think it's just a woman taking the elevator down, but even Stephen Frears points this out, that it's Lily's descent into hell, and he wanted to capture that in the lighting and the shadows in that scene. Are
It's
just
one of
it's
my.
breathtaking to watch.
I don't have an official list of like my favorite shots in a movie, but that would be on the list.
Oh yeah, for sure,
And
for sure,
I have to say,
definitely.
so while Angelica Houston was nominated for an Academy Award for performance, she unfortunately did not win. But I do have to say, she did get the kudos she deserves. She won Best Actress from the Boston Society of Film Critics. She won
Hmm.
Best Actress at the Independent Spirit Awards. She won Best Actress at the Los Angeles Film Critics Association Awards, and she also won Best Actress at the National Society of Film Critics. So,
And the O's are pretty hard to get, especially the National Society. And think
yeah,
about it, she was in a movie set in Los Angeles, and she won from the LA critics. That's pretty sweet. That's pretty
yes,
sweet.
yes. So and let's be real, the Independent Spirit Awards. That's if you want your finger on the pulse of what's interesting in film, that's the award show
Yes.
you should be following.
Yeah, indie film, and it was truly independent back then, because yeah, the
Yep.
movies weren't made for a gazillion bucks like they are now. But back
Mm-hmm.
then, yeah, to win an indie spirit, that really it's long been called and referred to as the indie world's Oscars,
Yep.
and there's a reason why that's the case.
Yeah. Absolutely. But Angelica Houston's not the only heavy hitter in this film. Like I touched on before, Annette Bening, who is an actress that I had been familiar with. She's just one of those names, that you just I knew growing up, and I had seen her in some stuff, but she is so transformative in this film. Like I
Yes.
said, the way that she moves, the way that she performs, um, is just magical to watch. And I also appreciate that she is doing a 180 performance of what Angelica Houston's doing. Angelica Houston is, you know, dark and brooding, and she's had this life of bullshit behind her that she's keeping underneath this facade. And Annette Bening's character, we get more of her everyday life than we do of Angelica Houston. But if we kind of view them as being of them being two sides of the same coin, the shit that Annette Bening has to go through is probably all stuff that Lily's character also had to go through.
Yeah, years
Sleeping
earlier. Yeah.
sleeping with her gross landlord just so she can get her rent paid.
Yeah.
You know, um, also trying to sleep with the guy running the jewelry store just so she can get some money out of it. All these, just the disrespect that she gets from people, but instead of playing it cold like Angelica Houston, she's bubbly, and
Yeah,
she's
very bubbly in the film.
yeah, and she's just chaos incarnate in some way.
Yeah, she's really a tornado in this movie. Truth be
Yeah.
told, a beautiful tornado. This is really, I think, a lot of people's first introduction to her. Like I said, I first saw her a couple of years beforehand as Dan Aykroyd's wife in her very first film, The Great Outdoors. So when this came around and I saw her on the poster and in the trailer, I'm like, I definitely have seen her somewhere before. And it was sometime later when I finally put two and two together. I'm like, oh, that's where I saw her from previously. But this character is it's an interesting femme fatale to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
I know she has gone on record as saying that her performance was largely inspired by a actress from, I believe, the 30s and 40s. Her name was Gloria Graham.
Oh yeah.
And interestingly enough, Gloria Graham, that actress who inspired her take on Myra, Annette would go on to play her in a film in 2017 called Film Stars Don't Die in Liverpool, opposite Jamie Bell. So she got a chance to play the woman who inspired her performance in The Grifters. Uh, how many years later would that be? That would be 27 years later. How cool is that? That she got a chance to play Gloria Graham in a big screen biopic.
That is
27 years after she did that.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I know with her role in The Grifters, there's quite a bit of sexuality at play because that's kind of how she moves around in the world, like you just referenced. She's essentially eye candy, and she's used that to her advantage.
Well, and
with
then
her landlord,
yeah,
with who knows how many other people along the way.
I also feel like it's probably safe to assume that she's putting on a character. Well, she's putting on a character because I don't feel like most people realize that she's as smart as she is, and that's kind of how she gets through the world, is so that way people underestimate her, so she can better than con them.
It's very much a kind of in the same vein of a Marilyn Monroe, where
Yeah.
there's a lot of stuff going on the surface, and there's even more going on inside that she keeps very close to the vest. It's very much in that regard where she puts a persona out there to kind of throw everybody off of her actual self. And speaking of which, there's a scene about towards the end of the second act in the film where she goes to Roy's apartment after she has attempted several times to get him to join her as her partner on a new long con that she has in the works. She's basically been trying to find the right guy for quite a while, ever since her original partner Cole, played by the amazing and sorely missed JT Walsh, was no longer able to be her partner. And you see the facade drop at one point. during this conversation. And when you see that mask drop, when you see her authentic, true self, you know she's no joke.
Yeah, and
You
it's
know that this woman has got some grit to her that up until that point you saw glimpses of, but you didn't really see the full magnitude of until she has her moment in that scene.
yeah, and it's also interesting to just think about how none of these none of them are explicitly aware that the other person is a con artist. Like, we know it because we know the movie's called The Grifters,
Hmm.
and we see them all performing their cons. But Angelica Houston is not aware that John Cusack is a con man. She probably assumes it, but doesn't know for sure. Um,
Yeah.
Obviously, John Cusack knows that his mother's a con artist, and that's why he does different types of cons, because he doesn't
Hmm.
want to roll
Safer cons.
safer. He doesn't want to roll
Yeah.
in. He doesn't want to roll in the same crowds. But then he also realizes that the lower the money, the less chance of things going too bad.
Yeah.
And then Annette Bening's character is not aware that uh, John Cusack or Angelica Houston are necessarily con artists as well until she puts it together.
Hmm.
So,
She has a suspicion
yes.
about him, but the mother comes as a complete surprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, once they all kind of have that realization, and once again, going back, it is a drug to them. They're all looking for their
Hmm.
next fix. It's whether it's the money or it's the con themselves. John Cusack, when Roy and Myra go on their little vacation together and they're on that train,
Hmm.
he can't
Hmm.
help himself. You know, I don't remember what he says, if he's just going to get up and stretch his leg, take a walk, or what have you. He has his dice
Oh,
on.
do you want to get a drink? Do
Yeah,
you want to go get a drink? Yeah.
yeah, and he sees those sailors, and he can't help himself. He has to get involved, and he has to do
Well, yeah,
something.
he sees a bunch of marks,
Yeah.
easy marks. That's exactly what he sees. And then there's this great that's where it's this great reveal that Myra has when she witnesses him at work.
Yep.
And it's yeah, and then it leads to a scene that plays right after that, where we get this full reenactment of a long con that she's done with her old partner Cole. And let me tell you something. In that scene, when it starts, Annette is luminous.
Oh
Her eyes literally sparkle throughout that entire sequence when she's relaying the story to Roy at dinner, and it's like that scene alone got her the Oscar nomination without question.
Oh, I'm
That
confident.
yeah,
I'm confident. And it's one of those things too. It's like, if Roy would have just been able to contain himself, he probably could have kept, he could have kept it going longer without her finding out. But
mm-hmm.
it's not only that she knows what to look for, he allowed himself to be seen.
Yeah, yep. I
So,
guess it's almost like he wanted her to find out without just coming out and telling her. Because why would you do that? Why would you be gone so long? Wouldn't you think that a person you were with would come looking for you if you've been gone a little bit too long?
mhm.
Like, oh, I wonder what they're up to.
But then
So it's almost like he wanted to get caught.
or maybe it's also a way of showing the audience maybe he's not as good at this as he thinks he is, because now that's twice he's gotten caught in this movie. One of them that hospitalized him.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Yeah,
Like, he
I
knows the
hadn't thought about
tricks,
that.
he knows what to do, but one could argue that he's getting greedy and he doesn't know when to walk away. So,
That is true.
and just the
Yeah,
way.
and
Oh, wait, continue.
oh no, I was about to say, I just wanted to touch base at some point about Cusack, how he came to be a part of the project.
Yes, I was actually just going to transition to Cusack. Let's go. What do you got?
All right. Oh no, I was going to just make reference to the fact that I know that he himself is a big Jim Thompson fan. He had read the book at some point years beforehand, and I think kind of devoured a lot of his
Hmm.
other novels as well. And so when the project was announced, he was all over it. He was actively campaigning for the part of Roy.
Yeah, and he actually tells a story. There's a nice featurette on the Criterion disc where it's got Cusack, Houston, and Benning and Frears all talking about making the film, and Cusack says that he's confident that Stephen Frears hadn't seen anything he's made before, that they met each other in a hotel room to talk about the role and just pretty much scoped him up and was just trying to be like, can this guy play Roy? Hadn't seen any of his other work, didn't make him audition, just kind of said, he just said he just walked in circles around me, grunting, just seeing if I was right for the part. And he apparently was, because he got cast.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was the first film that Frears did here in the States. It was not the first film he made for a Hollywood studio, but the first film he made here in the States. And the fact that it was an independent movie, and he brought his European sensibility to it. You could see aspects of that throughout the film, from the production design to some of the way the thing is lit. You could really tell that he put a lot of care and effort into making the film, and it's a beautiful film and picture to look at. And this was 2 years after he did Dangerous Liaisons, and if you haven't seen that movie, do yourself a huge favor. It's been playing recently on HBO after not having been played on cable in quite a while, and I've been watching it recently, and I'm like, damn, that's a good movie.
Yeah,
Glenn Close,
that
Michelle
one
Pfeiffer, John Malkovich, perfection.
That one I've not seen. That one I've not seen, but it's interesting. He talks about how obviously Dangerous Liaisons and the success of that film is kind of what led him to being able to do the Grifters. But he talks about how Scorsese had seen his film The Beautiful Laundrette, which is a film about a laundromat, essentially, that that's the film that Scorsese realized that, this guy should make the Grifters. And I just think that's really interesting. And it's also, like, you look at his career, the Grifters is such a different film for what he had been, like, he had done The Hit, which is a crime film, and he had done Gumshoe, but then, like, Dangerous Liaisons, that's
the hit with Terrence Malick. Terrence Stamp, rather.
No, the hit with Terrence Stamp, yes. So he had done some gangster films and then did Dangerous Liaison, but then, like, it's interesting because, like, he would then kind of go on to, he would do, like, the Queen with Helen Mirren, and but then it would also do High Fidelity, which has got this really interesting energy to it, and so his career's all over the place. But what I was gonna say about John Cusack was on a tear for a while, pretty much from the point that he got into acting all the way up until a good portion of it into the 2000s. He was doing really interesting roles, and I'm sometimes a little hard on John Cusack because I feel like sometimes he's choosing films that I don't think that they're not benefiting him, and he's not bringing anything to them. But he'll still do films that surprise me, like his performance in the movie Love and Mercy from 2014, which is about Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys.
Oh, okay.
Him and Paul Dano play Brian Wilson at different points in his life, and he's fucking phenomenal in it. But this young version of John Cusack is just enigmatic, and I love watching him on screen.
Oh yeah, he was great in the Grifters. He was great at Say Anything. He was great in Better Off Dead. And that was just a stupid teen comedy, but he brought something to it that most actors weren't bringing to stupid teen comedies at the time.
Or one movie that I really liked, him and Tim Robbins together in Tapeheads. That's a weird movie, but
I have not seen that one. I heard of it, haven't seen it.
They're both great in it.
I remember he did a movie with Sam Jackson about 10 or so years ago.
Cell.
Stephen King.
Yeah, Cell.
The Stephen King adaptation.
Yep. I never saw it. I
What?
read I read the book. The movie did not look that good to me.
1408, I believe.
Yep,
Room
1408. He
1408.
also did a movie of
Okay,
Spike Lee. He did Chirac.
that's true.
Yeah,
Set in Chicago. Yeah.
man,
Okay.
he's done
Yeah.
so much interesting stuff. So I don't know. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like really like I always liked the young Cusack period, but then I've been
Mm.
kind of reevaluating some of his later stuff, and it's like, you know what, he's still doing interesting work.
Yeah, I haven't really seen a lot of his more current stuff. Um, Pretty much up until about 2000, early 2000s, the early aughts. I'm pretty much up to stuff with that, but everything pretty much after that is kind of like hit and miss in terms of what I've seen,
Mm-hmm.
and what I haven't seen of his. So yeah, I definitely need to
Mm-hmm.
check out what he's been doing in more recent years. But yeah, stuff he did in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. Oh,
Good stuff.
I've seen most of that. Yes, a lot of it is quite good.
All right. So before we start wrapping up, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with the Grifters?
Oh yeah, we got to touch base on the amazing character actors. You know,
Oh,
just give them all a little shout
absolutely.
out, and of course Elmore Bernstein's music. That
Oh my God.
indelible score.
It is a character of its own. And apparently
Most definitely.
he was a little unhappy with this film, from what I have come to understand. His music wasn't he composed a score, and his music wasn't changed, but they recontextualized how they use some of it, and apparently he took it very personally.
Oh,
But when the movie came out, he and saw how well people received the music, he kind of uh, turned his opinion
kind
a
of
little
backed
bit.
off.
Yeah, kind of backed off a little bit.
Hmm. Yeah, that is one of those scores where you would be personally, if I ever see it in a secondhand store, or if I see a new copy of it, I'm picking it up because
Yep.
I have it on digital download, and I would love to have a physical copy of it. If I ever happen across
Hmm.
a physical copy of that soundtrack, I'm totally getting it. So, uh, any of the old exclusive company places that are still around that are under different names, if you have them, let me know because
I will
I'll come
keep an
pick it up.
eye out for you. I'll keep an eye out for you.
All right.
But then, like
Yeah, but
some other interesting character actors. So we already mentioned J.T. Walsh. Charles Napier is in the film.
yes.
He's in that flashback sequence. He's great. He's playing the
Yeah.
typical Charles Napier type role, but he's great in that role.
Mhm.
Jeremy Piven's got a really small role as one of the fishermen. Um, one of the sailors that he meets on the train.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of his earlier parts, actually, one of his first big films, I
yeah.
guess you could say.
And then
Yep.
Stephen Tobolowsky as the jeweler, the guy who runs the jewelry store. He's great.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh, and Eddie Jones plays the guy who teaches Roy his sleight of hand tricks,
yeah, I could
the
have
small
watched
con stuff. That's basically his mentor.
I
You
could have
see him in a
watched
great flashback scene.
I could have watched the entire movie of just that stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Jeff Perry from Scandal, he plays Silas on Scandal. He plays the part of the guy who Lily decks in the neck at the
Mm,
diner.
yeah.
And the waitress in that scene is Nicole Mercurio, who a lot of people might remember from um, um, While You Were Sleeping. She played Peter Gallagher and Bill Pullman's mother in that film. She was married to oh gosh, I can't think of his name. Peter Boyle's character in that film.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, she was in there, and Gilliard Sartan played Myra's portly landlord, who she has to basically turn a trick with in order to keep her place. So yeah, there's a lot of really interesting character actors. Henry Jones, Francis Bay,
Mm-hmm.
Xander Berkeley, all familiar names. John Grise, was recently on The White Lotus. So yeah, lots of really great character actors throughout this entire piece. Pat Hingle, who we mentioned earlier,
Yep.
is Bobo Justice.
And he eats an orange in the weirdest way I've ever fucking seen. Two-handed eating an orange.
You know what's so crazy about oranges in gangster movies or crime films like this? They always seem to simulate bad things are about to happen.
Yeah.
Have you noticed this?
Yes.
If you look at any, like the Godfather films, for example, particularly Godfather 3, if you look at that film, oranges almost always are present in scenes where something really fucked up is going to happen or will happen. I've noticed that. It's crazy how that
All right.
symbolizes
I
something dire.
I got an idea. If we ever do get a chance to put this on stage somewhere, which Mac, you got connections, we could start pitching this. We
All
have
right.
during the Bobo Lily sequence when they're talking about the oranges, we need to
Hmm.
get some like citrus reed diffusers going into the theater so you can smell the oranges.
Yes. That would freak people out so bad.
It would.
Even if they did that even if they did that at a like anniversary screening, which would be perfect. If
Uh-huh.
you all of a sudden started smelling orange in there, you'd be like, oh, whoa, what's up? Like, what's this? What's this all about?
Yeah. Yeah. Love it.
Oh wow.
All
Hmm.
right.
Yeah, and that sequence between Bobo and Lily, yeah, terrifying,
Yeah.
brilliant, terrifying, and then it does a literal shift, and then it goes to almost paternal and loving. The tonal shift is almost it's bizarre, but it works.
Yeah.
It totally works.
And I do have to say, Pat Hingle has one of my favorite lines in this movie when he goes, "What the fuck are you doing with the kid?"
Yep.
It's so good.
Yeah, she managed to keep the little aspect of her life completely quiet.
Yes.
And that's the only, and if you notice, Bobo is the only person that she is like terrified of.
Oh
Everybody
yeah.
else is like, she takes on all comers. But Bobo is the one person that Lily is genuinely scared of out of everybody in the movie. You would think she would be scared of far more people based on her profession, but no, cool as a cucumber. But as soon as he shows up, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you better be on your P's and Q's.
Absolutely. All right. So as is customary on the Shameless Picture Show, we do something called the Thrill House moment, which is your clinching moment, the moment that sold you on the film, or just a favorite scene. Mac, if you can remember all the way back when you first saw this movie, obviously you were sold on this film before you even saw it. But what was
Yeah,
the scene? What got you?
honestly, the opening sequence,
Well, with
the
the
opening, the
yeah,
opening title sequence, which I was just like, I was in awe. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And it's just a series of pictures of downtown LA and the music and the credits, the opening credits, and I was just like, I was already transfixed before the
hmm
movie even got underway. And then Scorsese's narration comes in, and you see them all, doing their trademark little bit. First Angelica, then John, then Annette as Lily, Roy, and Myra, and it was just so damn cool. I just kept saying, "This is so damn cool. This is so damn cool." And I just thought that like this is so cooler, much cooler than I thought I thought it was gonna be. I knew it was gonna be cool, but it was even cooler than I thought
yeah.
it was. Yeah.
Honestly, I was gonna say the same thing. That was my that just I love the use of split screens in this film, or just in that one
Hmm.
sequence, and the way that they framed everyone up, and it's not easy to do. So this was
No.
pre-digital. You couldn't just shoot three things and stick together. They had to, because each one of those shots is a oneer. So they had to
Hmm.
have everything. They had to shoot three different sequences, make sure each actor stayed in the side, pretty much stayed within the section they knew they were going to be visible at. So
Yep.
obviously, Joker Houston has to be stuck to the far left, and Annette Bening to the far right, John Cusack in the middle.
In the
But then
middle.
they have to make sure their timing is all right, so that way when they get to
Hmm.
the end and they turn towards the camera, they all turn at the same time. And they shot it. They had to shoot it separately, and then hope that it all came together in
Yep.
post.
It,
And it
in
did.
in different locations
Yep.
and more likely on different days.
Yep.
Yeah.
It all came
And
down
what
to
was
timing.
so and what was so amazing about that is I don't know. I had to look at the end credits again, but whoever was the continuity person on that movie needed a bonus for pulling that off. Seriously, they needed a bonus for pulling that off because that was rather brilliant. And you've seen somewhat similar sequences in film and TV since then, but that was really in my mind's eye the first time I had ever seen anything quite like that sequence before.
So the continuity person on this movie is Mary Cybolski. She was the script supervisor. So let's pour one out for Mary.
Oh yeah, congratulations, fantastic job.
All right, so like
But
I said, I usually try to come up with a different one, but honestly, that opening is so fucking cool that
yeah,
that's my answer as well.
yeah, and if I had to choose like individual scenes for the three leads with Angelica as Lily, I have to go with the diner scene.
Mm-hmm.
When she's eating chili, I think that just completely that's just that encapsulates that her place in the world, and just how damn in control she is, even though she's a bit off kilter in that scene. But yeah, I think that's a pretty perfect representation of her character and how she moves in the world.
Mm-hmm.
With John as Roy, I would probably have to go with the scene following his and Myra's date when they go out of town.
Mm.
He's just kind of like this, there's this sad little puppy thinking he isn't going to get what he wants, and you know, he's kind of making peace with that the best way he can. And it's just an interesting. He makes some interesting choices in that scene, and with Annette as Myra, without question, her whole sequence recanting the big long con she did with Cole.
Yeah,
That whole sequence from top to bottom, absolutely brilliant, and that was definitely the A Star Is Born moment for her. Like if you didn't know who she was before that moment, you knew who she was after.
absolutely, absolutely. No, I really liked this movie. I think it's going to be one I'm going to return to. Um, and not that Criterion is sponsoring this podcast, so if they want to, I'm not going to say no. The new Criterion release
That
for this,
part.
yeah, this new Criterion release for this film is pretty outstanding, and I think if people hadn't seen this film before, that is the best way to see it.
You know what's really great about the film? I've mentioned it to anybody who'll listen over the years, including you. And I'm
Yep.
so thrilled and happy that you finally got a chance to see it. The people who have seen it love it.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to one person yet who has not loved something about this film. Is either the performances, the story. There's something about it that everybody seems to gravitate towards. And I'm thrilled that continues in that Criterion. That release for earlier this year is going to just encourage that many more people to see it, and that's great. The more people who see it, the better, because it's a really, I think, one of the most unsung films of the 20th century, and certainly of the 90s. And I hope that it just keeps growing and growing more and more in stature, and that more and more people get a chance to see it.
Completely agree. Well, Mac, I really appreciate you coming on my podcast today to talk about the Grifters. I know you do some social media, but where can people find more information about what's going on with you?
Oh, well, I'm on Facebook, but it's only open to friends. But when I'm in shows, they certainly promote that, and those are all fairly open in different theater companies I'm a part of.
Here's what you're gonna do. People are gonna have to go to Google, and they're gonna have to set up a reminder for your name, so that way, anytime you pop up in a show, Google will tell them.
That is true. And I also, like you, have written for RogerEbert.com, and that's very easily searchable. You go to RogerEbert.com and you can search under my name, and you can see everything that I've written for them so far since 2022.
Perfect. And at this point, everyone should know where to find me, but I'm Michael_Viers or Shameless Picture Show on pretty much all forms of social media. You can find me on Letterboxd at Viers102008, and you can find me on TikTok and Instagram, where I talk about aspect ratios more than anyone else on those platforms, because I am doing physical media reviews for various companies such as Severin Films, Paramount Pictures, Severin Films, a little bit of everything. Kino Lorber. Haven't gotten on Criterion yet, but maybe one day. But thank you for everyone for listening. We are winding down season 9 of the Shameless Picture Show, and we are gearing up for episode 200, which is coming in the very near future. So make
congratulations.
Thank you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment, and make sure you come back. Shame time, shame place, Shameless Picture Show.
The Shameless Picture Show is a proud member of the Cinepunks Podcast Network. The show is recorded in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and is hosted and produced by Michael Viers. The show was created by Michael Viers and Nick Richards. The Shameless Picture Show is edited by Austin Proctor of the Frightmares podcast. Amanda Viers is the show's graphic designer and a big help behind the scenes. Our theme music was composed by Austin Proctor with narration by Nick Richards. The end credit music you're currently enjoying was generously provided to us by the band 10 Speed. And an extra special thank you to all our Patreon supporters and to our generous sponsors. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and directly at Cinepunch.com.